What's up, guys, and welcome back to another prep video. Today is Labor Day. It's September 1st. Happy Labor Day to all of you. And that means we had the day off, which was incredible. Tomorrow, the first trading day of September. So best of luck to all of you guys in September. If you're interested to see how my performance was in August, go head over to my socials where I posted my end of month P&L, as well as a live login for you guys to see how that month ended. Now, in today's prep, we're going to do something a little bit different, and we're going to answer 4 major questions. Those questions are going to be up on your screen. Right to my left is where they are, and we're going to answer those questions today and prepare the best we can for the next trading week. Now, of course, there's always going to be much more content that you are going to have to consume or at least educate yourself on to prepare yourself properly for the upcoming week. And if you want to stay up to date with the daily updates and the daily analysis, make sure to head over to the pre-market live streams that we do here on YouTube for free every morning starting at 8 a.m. We need to stay updated. We can't just watch a video on Sunday and expect everything to stay true throughout the week. So make sure you're getting up-to-date information every single morning, 8 a.m. here on YouTube. With that said, let's jump into our first question, and that is, what are our levels on the ES and NQ futures? This is always the most important thing to understand heading into any trading week. What we can see here is the S&P 500 tried to make a new high on Thursday into Friday of last week, which ended up being a massive bull trap. Any of you out there that follow me religiously know that we were all over this. On Friday last week, on my X, I posted before the market opened that there is a potential for a bull trap. And you guys can see that that is exactly what happened. So knowing my levels and knowing what happened overnight, I was aware and very cautious of some downside on Friday, alerted, of course, our members in the insiders community, and of course, you guys that do follow me on X for free. If you do that, which I recommend you do, then you were ready for that downside that came in on Friday. You can see right here that we had some major previous highs. We had these major highs here that we did get above in the end of day on Thursday into the overnight on Thursday into Friday, but by open on Friday, we were trading back under it. So anyone that chased longs end of day Thursday or in the after hour session got totally trapped there, and the market dumped on them, which was a very, very common thing to see. And of course, like I said, we called it there on X. So if you're aware of these things and you educate yourself, you can spot this as well. That was a very clear downside move on Friday. Now, the thing that sort of sucks is that yes, there was downside and we're back under this major supply high. We are still not under this major demand low, which means next week, if we open where we are right now, we are opening in the exact same channel that we traded in all of last week. We can see right here our 64.60 low and our 65.08 high. We are trading in this 40-point channel, the same channel that we were trading in on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, basically all of Thursday and all of Friday. So we have that same channel, the same highs, the same lows. Not much preparation needed here because it's the same levels we've had in our charts since last Sunday prep. But unfortunately, we're going to have to be careful of that chop once again. So we're going to need a break out of these channel levels. If not, guess what? It's another sideways week, and you need to trade accordingly. Now, if you remember our last Sunday prep, we talked about the best long being 64.30, and that was exactly where the best long of the week was. So we were very spot on there. We're watching these previous lows here between 64.53 and 64.60, which held the market up on Friday. And you can see we are still holding that 64.60 as of right now, which is around 5:14 p.m. on Monday, September 1st. So pretty clear levels on the ES. You guys can see them up on the screen. Really no changes. The only key thing to take away here is that the S&P failed back in this range to end last week, and we are going to have to be watching the exact same channel. We have that daily 20 SMA down below that could act as a support as well. Let's go over to the NASDAQ futures. The NASDAQ futures was able to break above that 23,689 level, which was our little rejection point right here, 23,690 to 23,650. We rejected there Friday of 2 weeks back. We rejected there Wednesday of last week. We got above that level Thursday into Friday, but you can see when we pushed a little bit higher, we got up into our next supply level, which was around 23,800. right at these failures right here, these previous lows right here, and this failure point right here. You can see the NASDAQ pushed up into those previous rejection points, and pretty much that was the high that caused the downside on Friday. Now, the key thing to realize here, very similar to the S&P 500, dropping this down to the 30-minute chart, look at the trap that was set. Thursday, we got above this high into the end of day. By the open on Friday, we were trading back below it. That puts everyone that longed above that 23,690 all underwater and all trapped longs. That was a total bull trap, and you saw the move very aggressive off the open as you failed back under the 650 high, the rejection here, and right there on Friday. So very, very clean trap there, and a very nice move back to the downside. Now, like I said with the S&P 500, the unfortunate thing is that, yes, we are in the exact same channel that we were trading on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, most of Thursday, and all of Friday. You can see we are in that exact same channel between around that 23,330 to around that 23,690. Now, of course, that's a pretty wide channel on the NASDAQ, but you can see that the price action has been pretty much pinned within here all of last week, and we are going to have to understand that that is possible once again. If the market wants to stay in that channel, you need to trade accordingly. So the next question that we're going to answer is, are semis starting to lose momentum? And that's something that's very, very important to pay attention to. And we saw some signs of it, early signs, on Friday of last week. And we can see that on Friday, the semiconductor ETF, the SMH, failed back under this 293 spot, failed back under this major previous high, and failed back under the daily 20 SMA. That is important. We can see we are now trading below those highs, and we are trading back within this original channel between that 283 major demand low and now this 293 high, which we failed back below, which we were trying to hold all of last week before Friday. So that's a little bit of a sign. We can see the SMH popped up into these highs here, and into this high right here, and got heavily faded after NVIDIA earnings. So this is something to pay attention to into next week. Are semis losing momentum? The answer to that question depends on whether the SMH can get back above this 293.50 and back above that daily 20 SMA. So I want to go ahead and break down NVIDIA. We can see NVIDIA went up into these major all-time highs, got pretty heavily rejected on Friday. If we go to Friday's price action, we can see a major rejection on Friday, but also on the earnings day, post the earnings day, look at that huge failure up at that all-time high on Thursday and the downside that came in on Friday. So a little bit on the weaker side there on NVIDIA post earnings, and that is something to be cautious of. We can see there is major demand still down below. There's the major highs here. And guess what? NVIDIA is in the exact same channel it has been in. So we really can't say it's losing momentum because there's been no major breaks. But that's a pretty clear rejection that happened on Friday. And the SMH failing back under the daily 20 is something to be paying attention to. Now, if this semiconductor weakness does continue, there is one that I would like to be looking to fade, and that for now is going to be AMD. We can see AMD had a very clear job that it had to do. It had to get over 169 for the bulls to get activated again. It couldn't do it. It tried it all last week. It could not get above it. So in my opinion, the bulls have failed here. The bulls needed to get over 169. They rejected that daily 20, and we could not get a clean hold above that key level. If I go to the daily chart, this is starting to look like a failure to me on the daily chart from Friday of last week. If we break under these daily lows right here, which is around 157.80, I do not see much down here until a pullback to that 149, 150 area. So I'm going to be watching these daily lows right here. That is the daily low from August 6th and the daily low from August 20th. If we break this double bottom daily low, I think you could see a pretty healthy downside move back to 150 on AMD. That's if the semis stay weak. So the next question that we need to answer is money flowing into the cloud stocks. There has been a very clear outperformance across a few cloud names after some major earnings on MongoDB, on earnings on Snow, as well as CRM, which is approaching here this week. So that's going to be a big earnings to watch out for. But MongoDB That had a huge move post earnings, and we are coming into some major weekly level charts. Here on the weekly, we can see major previous lows around $321 that we are trying to get back above. If MongoDB can get above that major weekly level, as you can see, I have it sort of marked out, major weekly breakout, I don't see much stopping this until $370 per share. Now, of course, pullbacks are warranted, and I would be looking to see where they can come in. For me, a pullback to these highs here and this high right here at 300 would be an incredible look for MDB for a pullback long. So I'm going to be looking for pullbacks here on MDB next week, and I'm going to look to see if these cloud names stay hot. The next one that was very hot is Snow post earnings, and if we go to the weekly chart and zoom out, we can see Snow is another one that's at a major weekly high. So here on the weekly chart, we can see the last time Snow was up here was back in 2022, back at this $246 level, which rejected right here. And the question is, do we reject again here, or is it time for us to break out? Snow has been basing for almost 2 to 3 years now. Is it time to get Snow over this 246.50 level? That's going to be something to watch to see if the cloud sector stays hot. The last one that I'll be watching, we do have earnings, of course, on CRM, but there's a very interesting level here that I would be watching next week, and that is these lows right here at $257.86. You have a triple bottom low here on CRM. Once it broke below that, you can see that we moved aggressively lower down into a major demand. Now, if you look at this, if we go to the daily chart, we can see this low right here from when that gap down started is this exact 257.86 level. If we can break above that, and hold above the daily 50, I'm interested to see if CRM can continue higher with some of this heat that we've been getting on the sector. So watching to see if I can answer the question, is the money flowing into these cloud names? This is something that I'm going to be watching. Now, the last question that I want to go ahead and put in your mind for the upcoming week, and really towards the end of the year, right, is did healthcare bottom? This is something that I'm watching very closely on the XLV. This is the healthcare ETF. We can see that we have major lows around this $125 area, all the way dating back from 2022, 2023. You can see we came down into this area and are starting to see some upside come in. Now, the reason this question is interesting to me is, does UNH help this XLV continue higher? And UNH, you guys know, got that big sort of investment from Berkshire Hathaway and from Warren Buffett, I guess you could say. And after that move, we've been consolidating quite nice and actually closing very strong on Friday. So this 310 level, you can see, has not been able to break out over the last few weeks. So the question is, if UNH can break above this 310 next week after bottoming here around 296, if we can get this move higher on UNH, does that help the XLV, and does that show you a potential bottom on the XLV? That's going to be something that I'm watching very closely. Does UNH break out of that 310 level and continue this upside move after a nice consolidation after the big pump from the Berkshire Hathaway investment? This is something that I will be watching. So the last two things that I'm going to show you before we end today's video are some daily charts that I am very interested in for upside on the tech names. These are tech names that we all know and love. The first one I'm going to be watching is Apple. Apple has had a nice consolidation above this previous major rejection point at around $225 per share. We had a nice push lately. We had a nice consolidation, a pullback, and a hold at that 225. And really, all Apple needs to do is break above this daily high at around 235, and I believe you could see upside continuation. Apple is going to be announcing a new iPhone soon. There could be some momentum because of that. This is something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on next week. Does Apple stay strong? Definitely an outperformer over the last few trading days after holding that 225. The last tech name that I'm going to talk about today is Google, and that is because Google is at all-time highs and is one of the few tech names at all-time highs. This is Google. The previous all-time high in the daily was 208.70. If you include after hours, it's 211.17. And if we go to the 30-minute chart here, we can see last week, to close last week, as the market was going down, Google was going up, and Google held the previous all-time high levels. You can see all of Friday we moved lower into that demand, bounced out of it, and closed above it. So the question is, if the market is strong, Does Google continue to be an outperformer like it was on Friday? So guys, that's going to be it for our free prep here on YouTube. Of course, if you want to stay updated every single day as the market progresses and new things come out throughout the week, the place to be is the morning live streams that you need to tune in at 8 a.m. every single morning. If you want more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, press that like button before you head out, and good luck this week. Have a fantastic trading week, and I will see you on the live stream tomorrow. Peace out.